Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we unravel the mysteries of corporate filings. Today we're diving into a proxy statement from P3 Health Partners, and let me tell you, it's like trying to understand a doctor's handwriting, only it involves millions of dollars and your investments. Get ready for some surprises. This document is all about their annual meeting coming up in June 2025. It's basically a pitch to get shareholders to vote on some important decisions. First up, they need to elect some directors, people who will sit on the board and help guide the company. It looks like Sheriff Abdo, Greg Kazarian, and Greg Wasson are up for re-election. Next, they want shareholders to approve their choice of accounting firm BDO USA. It's like giving a thumbs up to the people who are checking their homework. Then comes the say on pay vote. This is where shareholders get to give their opinion, although non-binding, on how much the top executives are making. Finally, there's a proposal to approve the issuance of some stock shares related to a deal with VBC Growth SPV4, which is linked to one of P3's major stockholders. So who gets to vote? If you owned P3 Health Partners stock on April 10, 2025, you're in the club. For most of these proposals, they need a majority of the votes cast to go their way. Abstaining, which means to refrain from casting one's vote, has no impact. Let's take a closer look at those director nominees. Sheriff Abdo is a co-founder and former CEO of P3. Greg Kazarian is an operating partner at Chicago Pacific Founders, a private equity firm that focuses on healthcare. Greg Wasson used to be the CEO of Walgreens Boots Alliance, so he knows a thing or two about healthcare and retail. Now let's move on to the accounting firm. The audit committee, which is a committee that reviews the accounting and financial reporting, said they've reviewed the company's financial statements and are recommending them for approval. Here are the accounting fees. For 2024, they paid BDO about $3 million in audit and audit-related fees. Last year, it was about $2.8 million. The say on pay vote is up next. Remember, this vote isn't binding, but the company says they value what shareholders think about executive pay. Okay, this is where things get a little complicated. The company wants to approve the issuance of shares upon the exercise of warrants held by VBC Growth SPV4. Basically, P3 needed some cash, so they made a deal with VBC4. This involved a promissory note, which is like a loan, and some warrants. Warrants give VBC4 the right to buy shares of P3 stock at a set price. If this gets approved, it could dilute the value of existing shares, meaning each share is worth less because there are now more of them. They're asking for stockholder approval to follow NASDAQ rules. If they issue too many shares at too low a price, they need to get a thumbs up from the shareholders. The board thinks this is a good move because they needed the cash. The exercise of the warrants could bring in about 14 times $7 million. Time to meet the executive team. Eric Kaufman is the CEO, Amir Bacchus is the Chief Medical Officer, and Leif Pedersen is the Chief Financial Officer. It's good to know who is independent, meaning they don't have any conflicts of interest on the board. Mark Thierer, Greg Wasson, Lawrence Leisure, Mary Tolan, Thomas Price, and Jeffrey Park are all considered independent. P3 has a code of ethics that applies to everyone, officers, directors, employees. You can find it on their website. They also have an insider trading policy in place, which prevents employees from trading on non-public information. The audit committee is in charge of overseeing the company's finances. It's made up of Jeffrey Park, Thomas Price, and Greg Wasson. The compensation and nominating committee sets the pay for the top executives and helps choose who gets nominated to the board. The members are Lawrence Leisure, Thomas Price, Mary Tolan, and Greg Wasson. Now let's talk about executive pay. Here's a quick glance at the summary compensation table for 2024. Eric Kaufman made nearly $10 million, Sheriff Abdo made $1 million, Amir Bacchus made $600,000, and Leif Pedersen made $600,000, and Leif Pedersen made $679,000. For 2024, the annual salaries were a sizable chunk of their compensation. No bonus for most of the executives. This table shows what stock options and stock awards the executives still hold. The higher the number, the more unvested potential gains they have. The SEC now requires companies to show how executive pay lines up with company performance. In 2024, Eric Kaufman's total pay was almost $11 million. For 2024, their total shareholder return was $3.19. They had a net loss of over $310 million. Here is directors' compensation in cash and stocks. Many made around $200,000 to $260,000. Chicago Pacific Founders owns a lot of the company's stock. They basically control almost half of the voting power. P3 has a policy in place to handle any deals where there might be a conflict of interest. The audit committee has to review and approve those transactions. There is a related party transaction that we should know. P3 has a business deal with Atrio Health Plans, a company that's linked to Chicago Pacific founders. Then in December 2024, there was another financing deal with VBC, basically restructuring some debt. All right, that's the gist of this proxy statement. Now for my takes, EEP3, Health Partners seems to be at a crossroads. The company brought in a new CEO, but its losses are substantial. The reliance on deals with related parties raises eyebrows. It's great to see so much support from Chicago Pacific founders, but you start asking if P3 can stand on their own. What's clear is that P3 needs to turn those losses around quickly. Their board might be super qualified, but there is a lot of overlap and related party relationship, which is not ideal. The fact that the independent director's total pay is at $260K looks like a steal, but also shows the struggles of the company. They took a hit on revenue, and even though their operations have been up and down, their ability to innovate is not impressive in the long run. It's not enough to hope that the new management will turn the ship around. A transformation has to be seen. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe for more corporate deep dives.